Trump really might not be leaving in 2028. I think that the whole Trump is going to stay thing, Trump isn't going to step down thing was originally seen as this inflammatory statement that Trump critics were making that didn't have any real basis. It was just characteristic of Trump. I mean, he did try to overthrow the Capitol when he lost in 2020. So it's not an extremely ridiculous thing to say Trump is going to try to stay president forever. While he was on the campaign trail, he literally said, all you need to do is vote in this election. You're never going to have to vote again. Like, it wasn't a crazy thing, but a lot of people in the commentary space were like, all right, cool your jets, everyone. Trump is obviously not going to go for 2028. But I don't know. I'm ready to start having the Trump isn't going anywhere conversation. Trump is very, very influenced by the people around him. This is not some rogue dark horse thinker who marches to the beat of his own drum. Stephen Miller has an unbelievable amount of influence over the president. Steve Bannon has always had a lot of influence over the president. Elon Musk, Peter Thiel. Trump is a puppet. Like, it seems like he's the puppeteer and there are totally people who just do whatever Trump says. But Trump isn't the mastermind here. Trump isn't any more the mastermind than the people who created Project 2025, than the AI overlords who are trying to get him to do whatever they say by helping him do crypto schemes. Like, Trump is easily manipulated. It could be Putin. It could be Bannon. Let's take a look at an interview that Bannon just did that I think was him tipping everybody's hand pretty clearly.
Well, he's going to get a third term. So Trump 28, Trump is going to be president in 28, and people just ought to get accommodated with that.
So what about the 22nd Amendment?
There's many different alternatives. At the appropriate time, we'll lay out what the plan is, but there's a plan, and President Trump will be the president in 28. We had longer odds in 16 and longer odds in 24 than we got in 28. And President Trump will be the president of the United States, and the country needs him to be president of the United States. We have to finish what we started. And the way we finish it through Trump is a vehicle. I know this will drive you guys crazy, but he's a vehicle of divine providence. He's an instrument. He's very imperfect. He's not churchy, not particularly religious, but he's an instrument of divine will. And you can tell this of how he's pulled this off. We need him for at least one more term.
That's enough from fucking Bannon. This is a very important part of Trump Volume 2's messaging and of the very clearly fascist nature of it, the messaging they use that is completely in line with other authoritarian dictators throughout history. Let's listen to Stephen Miller saying the exact same thing about Trump being some sort of divine, avatar of God our Lord designed to save humanity.
Let me just say, Mr. President, that this country was going to die without you. This country was going to actually die without you. That's what we were facing in 2024. We've been invaded for 4 years. Our communities were sinking. Our public safety had gone to zero. Cartels were running entire communities. Sex trafficking, child trafficking, labor trafficking was out of control. Overdoses were out of control. The cartels were claiming more and more territory. City services were buckling. This was a country on the verge of dying. And you alone saved it. And when you...
So this is how dictators frame themselves. And I know that I'm not reinventing the wheel here. I don't think you're coming to this video to learn about Trump's authoritarian playbook. You know how it works. You've been watching it. And they aren't subtle about it. They just tell you what's going on. But again, it's this type of messaging that is how they brainwash the masses into making excuses for behaviors that from other presidents and other figures in public life would have otherwise been scrutinized in one way or another. Trump is the one we needed to fix all of these problems. Mind you, a lot of the problems that Stephen Miller is talking about here are either still just as bad as they were when Trump got elected or significantly worse at this point, or obviously made up problems that are not serious. So we could pick it apart. We could talk about overdoses. We could talk about cartels, many of whom use cryptocurrency, by the way, to power their illegal operation, which is something that Trump has opened the floodgates for, but that's another conversation. Like, we could talk about how ridiculous Stephen Miller's statement is, but you know that all of these Trump came in and fixed this things are bullshit. What's important here is to say, okay, Bannon and Miller, who are two of the loudest voices in Trump's ear, telling him to be the most aggressive authoritarian possible, they're aligned on one thing. And the new MAGA administration is not very good at aligning on shit, right? You got some of them talking about how there's no Epstein files. some of them talking about how we do have the Epstein files, but Trump is not in them. There is not a very clear and cohesive messaging strategy operation within MAGA 2.0. Across the board, we had so many examples of people saying completely different things, all in service of defending Trump. So like, the tariffs are not actually hurting the economy, says one MAGA person. The tariffs are hurting the economy for now, but this is us playing the long game, and trust me, everybody, things are going to get better, says another MAGA person. Like almost every single issue in this new administration, you could find different people saying completely opposite things in service of the same defense for the same dictator. So, but with Miller and Bannon, you've got the two guys, two of the, let's say, top 5 to 7 people in Trump's year rolling out this playbook using this divine savior message. And that's going to be how they get a lot of evangelical Christians, an extremely important part of their voting base, a lot of Americans who don't really care about history, don't really care about research. That's how they're going to get a lot of people to get behind this. Because listen, I do think there is a substantial part of the MAGA base that would turn on Trump were he to stay in 2028 and try to seize even more power. But I think something that we need to hold space for is the fact that a lot of MAGA will be fine with it. Like a much more substantial amount of these people would support a third Trump term than I think people are giving any sort of credit for. Like, I think after the Capitol riot, people in the Democratic Party and in the Democratic establishment overestimated how many Republicans would actually give a shit about attacks on the American democracy and freedom. Like, I think, and in 2024, it was the same thing. I felt this way, by the way. Like, in the 2023 Republican primary, when Ron DeSantis and Vivek Ramaswamy and Chris Christie were all trying to get the Republican nomination against a Trump that just kind of bulldozed and didn't even show up to the debates, I personally was like, there's no way the Republican Party is going to support fucking Trump again after all the shit that he pulled. So I'm guilty of this too. Mind you, I don't have a preponderance of political experience. I was 22 years old. You know, I blame my elders who should have been able to know better for not calling this out earlier, although obviously many of them did. But like, a lot of people in the MAGA base won't turn on Trump for completely violating and just ripping the shit out of American democracy. A lot of them are totally fine with it. Like, as long as he uses enough ethnic cleansing messaging, as long as he makes enough promises, a lot of people don't care what tangible evidence they have that Trump is actually delivering on the promises that he makes. Because his way of reaching them is not painting a vision of what's to come. It's getting them angry and afraid and evoking the feelings of, gee, don't you miss how everything was back in the days of segregation? Back in the 80s, when shit was a lot worse than people give it credit for. We talk about that in other videos. I guess the two major takeaways that I want you to get from this video are, number one, let's keep an eye on people in Trump's inner circle and see where they align on messaging, because I think that where you can hear the same things from these guys is going to be the most telling thing. And number two, I think that we cannot underestimate the MAGA base's willingness to make excuses for and play defense for Trump violating American democracy. They have shown us they don't fucking care. Trump knows exactly how to pluck their strings. He knows exactly how to make them happy. And listen, I think he's losing a substantial amount of people. I think that his weaponization of ICE and giving them an infinity dollar budget to get ballistic missiles so they can be stronger in their targeting of fucking grandmas at the park, I think that that has lost them people. I think that if we keep the Epstein fire, if we keep fanning those flames, that will lose him X amount of people. But in terms of enough people for him not to be able to seize power in 2028, well, that's another conversation. So listen, I cannot confirm Donald Trump is going to try to stay in office. I don't even think Donald Trump can confirm that. But I think the people who we need to be listening to in terms of determining what Trump's strategies are going to be are telling us a very clear story. There are multiple people in Trump world who have his ear, who are telling us loud and clear, there is a conversation happening there are plans being laid out for Trump to seize power and remain in office in 2028. And I kind of got peer pressured into not talking about that and being like, no, of course, they're just going to put up JD Vance, or like Trump will anoint JD Vance, but somebody who's more inflammatory and far right is going to beat him in the primary. And then I sort of started running with that because it's understandable to think like, of course, they're not going to try to fucking seize another term and everything. But now I'm like, no, I think it's entirely possible. And I wouldn't be the least bit surprised, especially with what Trump has proven to do so far. With Bulwark, I'm Cam Kasky. Stay safe out there, folks. Like and subscribe and whatnot. See you later.